Here we are at Simple Studios, where we are with David Leddick, who is rehearsing for Rentboy the Musical, which will be running from March 21st through March 31st in New York City. And who or what inspired you to become a writer and a performer?
I think that I was born a writer and a performer because I was never that interested in either of them, really, because I never was interested in working. I'm very romantic. My whole life has been all around men. So, and I've never really thought about working, but I worked my way through college as a newspaper correspondent. And then after I danced, then I became an advertising career. I could really write advertising. That's what I was like, this is what the culture wants me to do. It wants me to write advertising. I never thought of it as a career. I always thought of it as a job. Like a Rosalind Russell movie. You get dressed and you go to your job. And the performing thing is really because I was a dancer originally, right after the Civil War. And then, so when my trainer was doing a show and they needed an older person who could sing and dance. And I started in a show for him, and then suddenly I keep getting booked and booked and booked and booked. I'm working all the time.
Speaking of your advertising career, how do you feel your working in advertising helped prepare you for now being a writer and continuing your performing?
It's interesting because I think actually my dancing career before advertising prepared me for advertising. And I was at the opera, we used to go in at 10 in the morning, we got out at midnight, 6 days a week, because it was repertory, so you're always rehearsing something and doing something else in the evening. We worked our butts off.
How did you remember which show? Did you ever get confused?
No, well, you were so tired, it didn't matter. But I do think that in advertising, I always said, you're not working as hard as you worked in theater. And it helped me a lot because advertising is a world where you rarely get compliments and you get a lot of criticism. And it's helpful to realize it's just work. You're working and you're working hard, but you're not working as hard as you once worked. So that helped a lot. Both fields require a lot of discipline. If you can't work hard, like right now we're preparing this show. Everybody's working every day, Saturday, Sunday, right on through. And that can't bother you, It can't be a problem. You have to be willing to work and think, okay, because and I think the same thing. Your main concern is you're trying to do your best. Because if it doesn't work and it isn't successful, you didn't fail. You did everything you could do. You don't have to go home and think, oh God, if I'd only called that person, or if I'd only memorized that line, or if maybe it would have been different. If you've done everything, you can go to bed with a clear conscience because you did everything you could do, and the rest is in the hands of fate.
That's a great attitude.
Well, it worked well in advertising too, because advertising very often, I'm just finished my advertising memoirs, what are called, we offered them caviar. Because I used to come back from, Revlon was my big client. They were like, oh, they were always voted the worst client in America every year by Advertising Age. Really, every year, 10 clients, and Revlon was always number one. But I used to come back from them, and I would say to my staff, I said, we offered them caviar, but they wanted peanut butter. So we'll give them peanut butter. But that's, you do your best. And it's interesting because by doing your best, very often, they grew up more because they kept seeing a quality of stuff, and then they begin to think they'd done it, although they hadn't. So then like a year later, they would be able to accept another level of work because they'd been exposed to it a lot. Yeah.
I really
I
like
talk
that.
a lot.
No, I like that. No, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Who haven't you worked with or written about that you would like to? Because you've done a lot of biographies of gay. Well,
I'm done, I think, 25 books now. But I'm working on my autobiography, which is called, Is It Hot in Here or Is It Just Me?
That's going to be hot.
Then I want to do a book called The New Old. That's really the people I want to see. And I've talked to 2 of them now. I want to do 40 people, men and women, who are over 70, and as many over 80. And I think because of the baby boom, 65 now, the major number of people in the country are 65 this year. The big bulge is 65. Well, in the next 20 years, they're not going to be dying off at the rate people did in the past. We're going to have a big bulge of people in their 70s and 80s, and I think we have to rethink what that means. I encourage everybody to think, okay, look, I've got 20, 30 more years. I'm not going to sit around on my duff in some retirement community, you know. I'm going to learn baton twirling, or I'm going to go to, you know, Sri Lanka. I'm going to do that stuff I wanted to do, and women particularly. I think women spend a lot of their lives taking care of other people. And we kind of have this idea in our head that the good thing is to go somewhere with a lot of other older people. You know, you pick up how they behave. Like, you know, recently I thought, I'm having trouble getting out of a car. I'm not having trouble getting out of a car. I don't know where I got that idea. It's watching other people having trouble getting out of cars. I don't have any trouble. It's an idea you get in your head and you start copying them. So I think the less you're around, you have to be in a mix.
Right.
You need a mix of people so that you're constantly reminded of how, and this show is great for that. Because, I mean, I'm by far the oldest person in the show. The other ones are like 20 to 25, somewhere in there. So it's great to be around them because then you kind of, you know, their energy helps a lot, and you kind of want to do your part to keep, you know, because it's very important for them, a show like this, yeah.
But having the experience that you have, you get to show them what hard work and stamina does.
Yeah, and it's just work. You know, because I'm getting nervous. I said, don't get nervous. It's just a show. Come on, we're here to do something, which helps a lot, you know, in keeping your stage fright down. And so
you've written many books about the male art form and male nudes, and as well as the male escort industry.
Yeah.
Which your latest book is right here. Escort,
Let me
Men
show
Who
it to
Sell
people.
Sex.
Listen, go buy this book. Escort. 40 profiles with photographs of men who sell sex. Very interesting. I interviewed 40 guys who were male escorts. We did kind of conservative photographs of them. They wish to have very unconservative ones, so they're in there.
So now what is it about the escort industry
I'm
that
over
you're
70.
very interested in?
I'm over 70. I'm over 80.
No.
I'm 83, yeah.
Oh my God.
And
You don't look it.
Thank you. No, I think what it is I feared after 70, there's things, you know, I got a lot of mileage, and we live in quite a conservative country, really, because I live in France, I live in South America, I live in Uruguay, and most of the rest of the world is not as conservative as the United States. We don't realize that. And I thought, you know, other people aren't going to do all these books of naked men, because
What excites you about having Rentboy the Musical come to life in New York City?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I would say the most exciting thing about it is money. Because I think it's a show we've done twice, 2 seasons in Florida very successfully. And the reason we brought it here is it's a really cute show. And I think it's an off-Broadway show. It probably will never, I can't imagine it really being a Broadway show, but it's a show that could run for 10 years. Not with me in the lead, but...
oh, well, come on, it could.
But a bit of God help us, it could. But no, it's a show that, because there's a lot of out-of-towners would, you know, they're not going to see this in Minneapolis. Right. And I think if we're in a 80-seat theater for this, which is really a backers showcase. But if we were in a 150, 200-seat theater, we could run a long time, and it could be a show that would give a lot of entertainers opportunity. You know, because people are going to see them and want them for another show, and
you could easily have a rotating cast.
Yes, and I think it could have. You know, it's very exportable. It doesn't have an elaborate set or elaborate costumes or anything like. It's just the cast and the music, really, with modest props. So it's a show that could go on tour. It's a show that could be sold to regional companies easily if they've got the cast. You know, it's not difficult. You know, it's not a complicated thing to do, and I think it just requires talented people who can sing. It doesn't require any very elaborate preparation or anything. Big thing in our show is, you know, it's never too late. It's never too late to be in love. Really, people think it is. I tell my friends, they say, well, because you know, you're never your own type. Right. So people say, oh, who would fall in love with me? And you have to say, well, you know, there are a lot of people out there might fall in love with you, and you're probably missing all the clues because you think, it couldn't be, it could be.
Did you find in writing the book Escort or in writing the musical that there were men or there were clients that fell in love with the escorts?
Oh, always. But it's the same thing, you know, in the female industry. A lot of the society women around Miami started out as call girls, and then some millionaire would fall in love with them, and they're only 22 or 23 years old, and bam, they're gone. And in the men's industry, it's the same thing. We have a big number in the show, called the boyfriend thing, because they want. And it's very interesting. I have a couple. One is probably 20 years younger than the other, but that's how they started. He said the first 2 nights he paid $2.50 an hour, but after that he stopped paying, and they've been together ever since. Really, yeah.
And with Rentboy the Musical, what do you hope audiences come away with after seeing the show?
I would hope they would come away with the recognition that this industry exists in a major way, that 50% of the male clients are married. There's information in the show about the industry wouldn't exist if there wasn't a lot of hypocritical, unhappy people who are buying it because it isn't in their lives. And I'd like people to say, okay, this happens, this exists.
You've worked with Andrew Sargent on several shows now. Mm-hmm. What do you enjoy most about working together? Well,
I enjoy working with a genius. I tell him that, it's true. I have a modicum of talent, and I'm more a hard worker, and I'm not a genius. He's a genius. I mean, this show is a really cute show, but it has great songs. That's very, very good music. Extraordinarily good music. We're doing a very good production. We have a great director, David Kingery. We have great music. We have a cast of people who really can sing. Because I've been in this is the 3rd season in it, and I've never heard it sung like this ever. But Andrew is extremely talented. And once in a while, I've only seen maybe worked with or known maybe 3 or 4 really talented people. And he's one of them. He writes some of the songs. He wrote the lyrics. I usually do the lyrics, but and I don't know, we get along all right. We get along fine, and like we kid each other. But he's really I'd say the music is the backbone of this show. Really, I think people are going to come and they're going to be astounded at the level of the quality of the music in this off-Broadway musical. Because I go to musicals and the music kind of carries the plot, but I don't come out singing.
And do you like a show where you leave?
Yeah, no, and I have a very good friend here who's like a trooper from way back, and she came to our original little like afternoon backers audition, and after she said, "You got a hit. You got 2 hummable songs." She said, for me, because she has known the theater forever, and she said, if you've got 2 hummable songs, you've got a hit. So I think, that encourages us a lot to know that.
For tickets and showtimes, you can go to rentboythemusical.com, and you should come see this really fun show, because it's going to be great, and you get to see David in pink high heels.
It's true. I may never come back in this show, and you'll have missed the occasion of a lifetime.
At 83 years old, he is going to make this stage brighter than you've ever seen.
Hopefully, or at least my fans will.